Do you really believe that you will build an empire with the words you repeat to yourself every day? Stop for a second and think about it. Every recurring thought you have, every phrase you mumble silently as you face your days, is shaping your fortune or digging your grave. This is not poetic metaphor. This is mental engineering. And if there's one thing I learned from rising out of poverty in Scotland to become one of the richest men in history, it's that wealth doesn't start with a bank account, it starts with non-negotiable statements engraved in the spirit. Today, you're about to receive 12 affirmations that have forged my life like steel, words that weren't created to comfort, but to build. If you want to continue believing that luck will knock on your door, you can close this video now. But if you're ready to forge your own era of prosperity, then listen to me as if you're receiving a map to gold mines, because that's what you're about to receive. And there's only one condition. You must declare these truths like a man at war, every day, until your reality has no choice but to obey. If you want to be part of a generation that builds wealth with purpose, lives with discipline, and leads with vision, then sign up. This isn't motivation, it's empire code. Now, listen to me with soul and steel. The first truth is simple and relentless. My wealth is a sacred responsibility, and I manage it wisely for the common good. This isn't charity, it's strategy. The money you accumulate is useless if it's not serving a greater purpose. The man who dies rich dies miserable, and I say that because I've seen with my own eyes heirs ruined and societies corrupted by fortunes that never served anything but to feed vanity. The true billionaire isn't the one who accumulates numbers, it's the one who moves resources with a sense of mission. Every dollar in your possession is a sword or poison. Use it to cut paths for others, or prepare to see your wealth poison your own home. The second statement is my personal motto. Engraved in every decision I have made since I was 30 years old, I focus my energy with absolute precision. Focus is my motto, from start to finish. The weak spread out, the powerful converge. When I entered the steel industry, I could have invested in coal, shipping, or real estate. But I concentrated on a single point with brutal intensity. Concentration builds empires. Dispersion builds illusion. Are you putting your energy where it generates a multiplier effect? Or are you burning your vitality in 10 directions at once? Wealth is a beam of light that passes through steel. It only forms when concentrated with surgical intensity. The third statement is the invisible foundation of all sustainable prosperity. Every dollar I receive is a seed. I plant it with purpose, to bear lasting fruit. Spend like a fool, and you will reap misery. Invest like a farmer with a century-long vision, and you will have harvests that your great-grandchildren will thank you for. The difference between spending and investing is in the intention. A lunch can be a waste or $1 million deal. A book can be entertainment or the foundation of an idea that will change your generation. Every dollar in your hands is either on a mission or being buried alive. The fourth statement that has guided each of my choices is this: I choose to walk alongside minds brighter than my own. For my success is born from the greatness of those around me. This is the secret that few have the courage to apply. The ego wants to be the smartest in the room. The empire builder wants to be the best surrounded. I surrounded myself with men who knew more than I did, and I gave them the freedom to grow. Many are afraid of losing control. I have always been afraid of losing excellence, and so, while others hired relatives, I promoted geniuses. Do you want to grow? Then learn to surround yourself with titans and to step aside when necessary. True leaders don't impose themselves, they build contexts where the best win. And now we come to the fifth statement, without which all the previous ones fall apart. I master myself before I try to lead anyone or anything. An emotionally uncontrolled man is a danger with a fortune. You don't have to shout to lead. You need a cool head, logical thinking, and absolute discipline. During crises, while others panicked, I thought quietly and made decisions based on principles. That is the difference between what rules an empire and what is a slave to circumstances. Do you want to be respected? Start by mastering your impulses. The sixth statement is the root of my freedom. My simple life is my luxury. I live below my means and invest above expectations. While the nouveau rich buy castles, the true builders live quietly and build libraries. I never cared about opulence. I cared about utility. Money should serve, not impress. There is no merit in looking rich. There is merit in making others rich through your example. Simplicity has allowed me to invest billions in education and build more than 2,500 public libraries. That is not philanthropy. It is strategic intelligence applied to posterity. The seventh statement sustains my pace of building. Time is my greatest asset. I manage every minute with the precision of an empire builder. Whoever wastes an hour wastes vital potential. My mornings were planned with the same discipline with which an engineer designs a bridge. Every meeting, every reading, every break all with purpose. Do you want to build something great? Then start by managing your days with the seriousness of someone building a legacy. Fortune respects the clock. Those who do not respect time lose opportunity. The eighth statement is the invisible oath of every true billionaire with a vision for impact. Philanthropy is my legacy. I don't give handouts, I give opportunities that transform. I taught this personally to Napoleon Hill. It's not about giving out of guilt, but about investing in the upliftment of others. Educate, don't support, build, don't distribute. Give, the kind of wealth that multiplies dignity, not dependence. Every time I built a library, I planted a spark of freedom in the mind of an unknown young person. That is true wealth, the kind that flourishes in the lives of others long after you are gone. And true builders know that a simple public statement can be the cornerstone of a new empire. But perhaps you don't yet understand the depth of these statements. Perhaps you're wondering, why would repeating these phrases every day change anything? I'll explain it to you with the coldness of someone who has studied, built, and won. What you repeat to yourself becomes a mental code, and every empire is built on codes. The difference between the failure and the billionaire does not begin with the bank balance, it begins with the invisible operating system of the mind. Look at a huge building. It is not held up by bricks, but by a structure of iron and concrete. So are you. Your invisible structure, your beliefs, your words, your convictions are what sustain or destroy everything you try to build. Most people live their lives repeating phrases like, I can't. It's hard. This isn't. For me, they say these things as if they were just venting, but in reality they are reinforcing neural pathways that shape their reality. They are digging their own hole with the words they repeat. Now, when you declare, for example, I focus, my energy with absolute precision focus is my motto, from start to finish. You are doing much more than making a nice statement. You are telling your mind, I'm in charge here. I don't get distracted. I know where I'm going, and your brain begins to reorganize itself. Procrastination loses ground. Your mental energy begins to align with your purpose. You become an arrow, not a leaf in the wind. Do you want to know why men like me, Rockefeller, Ford, Morgan, were able to build empires that changed the world? Because we did not tolerate loose thinking. We did not allow a distracted mind. For us, every thought was an investment. Every word was an order. And every order was followed by concrete action. Let me give you a real example from my life. Once, during a critical negotiation with a competing company, my entire team was in a panic. It was an acquisition that could have bankrupted my business if it had gone wrong. But I had repeated to myself for years, I master myself before I try to lead anyone or anything. So I sat down at the table with a cool head. I analyzed the numbers calmly. I spoke little, listened a lot. In the end, I closed the deal with a clause that turned the tables, and that competitor was absorbed, not through aggression, but through control. through mastery of myself. That is the power of living in alignment with the right affirmations. You don't have to be Carnegie, but you do have to be the master of your mind. You need to turn your words into foundations, because the world is already full of people who talk a lot and build little, of empty promises and statements copied from self-help books. But you're not here for ready-made phrases. You're here to forge your own code of wealth, to write your version of the gospel of practical prosperity, solid construction, and true leadership. Now I want to take you deeper. Think about it. My mission is to lift others up as I climb. True success is collective. If you're not lifting people up as you move forward, you're not building an empire. You're just piling up ego. I made my fortune, but not alone. I created environments where men who were rejected as laborers became managers, where forgotten talents flourished because they had space, direction, and high standards. Do you want to lead? Then learn to recognize greatness in others before they even recognize it in themselves. Learn to be the first to bet on them, but the last to flatter them. A true leader is invisible when the team shines, and non-negotiable when principles are at stake. That's why this statement carries so much power. Philanthropy is my legacy. I don't give handouts, I give opportunities that transform. People confuse giving with solving. I didn't solve anyone's life with money. I gave them tools, libraries, scholarships, structures. I gave them what was necessary so that an ordinary man, with discipline and reading, could become extraordinary. Are you providing solutions or perpetuating the dependence of those around you? That is the difference. That is what separates the builder from the giver. The giver seeks approval. The builder seeks transformation. And you need to decide which side you are on. And now, listen to this as if it were your last piece of advice. I avoid speculative shortcuts. I grow in a solid, methodical, and unshakable way. If you seek quick results, you will reap ruins. Everything that grows too fast without structure implodes. You are not building a store, you are building an era, a brand, a legacy. And that takes time, strategy, patience, and yes, a lot of quiet work when no one is watching. You must be understanding why these statements are so much more than pretty phrases. They are commands. Each one is like an iron pillar in your foundation. The more you repeat them with intention, the more your mind will align. The more your body will act on instinct. The more your environment will respond in sync. And here's the point that 99% of people overlook. These statements only work when you live them. There's no point in reciting them and then acting contrary to them. If you say, I focus my energy with absolute precision, and then spend the day jumping from video to video, from idea to idea, you're sabotaging your empire with your own hands. Now, I want you to stop, breathe, and choose. Which of these statements needs to become your non-negotiable truth, starting today? You chose a statement, or it chose you. And now there's no turning back. Let me tell you a secret that few understand. Everything you declare often and defend with attitude begins to seep into your bones, and it becomes destiny. But there is a price, a silent, continuous, non-negotiable price. Living in accordance with what you say, you can tell the world, I am in control of myself. But if you still explode emotionally over delays, criticism, or minor frustrations, then you are just memorizing phrases. The truth is that every affirmation you repeat requires you to destroy a part of yourself that no longer serves you. It's not comfortable. It's exhausting. And that's why few persist. But I insist, there is no construction without deconstruction. During the most intense years of my business growth, I maintained a discipline that many today would call radical. Unchangeable schedules, required reading, weekly review of decisions, meetings with each leader, not to discuss problems, but to realign principles. Because if the foundation of an empire begins to crack, there's no point in painting the facade. I learned from mistakes before they became losses. I shaped mindsets before they became a weak culture. Are you willing to engage in this silent vigilance? I didn't become Carnegie through genius. I became Carnegie through brutal consistency. And that's what I'm trying to give you. A model of conduct that doesn't bend to the emotions of the day, that doesn't depend on motivation, that doesn't live on opinion. True discipline begins when you decide to live each sentence as an irrevocable vote for your future. That's why I go back to the root of it all. I educate my mind every day. This is not a recommendation. It is an order for survival. The world is constantly changing, and only those who read the present as if deciphering the future will prosper. I read treatises on steel, yes, but I also read philosophy, economics, history, because each page taught me to negotiate better, lead more accurately, and understand the game behind the game. Have you been reading? And I'm not talking about social media or motivational quotes. I'm asking if you've been studying with purpose, if you've been diving into books that challenge your mind, expand your thinking, and shape your vision. A man without reading is a warrior without a sword. An entrepreneur without education is blind among sharks. Ignorance may even bring you momentary profits, but the bill always comes, and it comes dearly. Most people are living on the fly. They react to what happens, put out fires, chase revenue, and survive month after month as if this were normal. But listen to me. Real growth requires a century-long vision. I wasn't just thinking about the next quarter. I was thinking about the next 30 years, about how that contract would impact my reputation, my ability to reinvest, my image with the unions, my strength with the banks. Everything was a chess move, and every move had to be calculated based on principles. And when I say I avoid speculative shortcuts, I'm not just talking about risky investments. I'm talking about the temptation to lie to the customer, to cook the books, to sell empty promises. I'm talking about those choices that seem advantageous today but weaken your foundation tomorrow. An empire built on shortcuts is a sandcastle, and when the tide of reality rises, and it always does, you will see that haste is the enemy of permanence. Want to know how I tested my empire? I watched how it reacted to time. When crises came, and they came often, my structure did not shake, because I built with concrete, not vanity. My contracts were solid. My leaders were trained. My numbers were real. And that's why the steel I produced shaped not only bridges and railroad tracks, but the economy of an entire country. That's not an exaggeration. It's just what happens when you build with vision, not with a desire for applause. Now, I want to touch on something even deeper. Something few dare to admit. Success without purpose is an elegant form of misery. It doesn't matter how many digits are in your bank account. If you're not transforming lives with your work, you're just another hoarder. To say that philanthropy is my legacy is not about giving. It's about mission. I didn't hand out crumbs. I invested in structures that would change generations. Libraries, universities, training centers, because I knew that a book can set a man free, and a free man can change a city. My money was not at the service of my ego. It was at the service of human elevation. And that is why I am still remembered. Not for the numbers, but for the impact, and that is what you need to understand now. You are not here just to get rich. You are here to build a legacy that will speak for you long after your body is gone. You are here to shape the destiny of others with the steadfastness of your actions. And that will only be possible if you internalize each of these statements as principles of war, principles of construction, principles of eternity. Don't think it will be easy. There will be days when your mind will try to sabotage you. Days when it will seem easier to return to the comfort of mediocrity. Days when the old you will call your name in a sweet voice. But in those moments, you will repeat even more strongly, "My simple life is my luxury. I live below my means and invest above expectations." And then, even if you don't feel like it, you will read. Even if you are tired, you will study. Even if you are discouraged, you will take action. Because that is the pact. That is the price. That is the path of those who decide not only to prosper, but to prosper with purpose. So listen to me carefully now, because at this point, the game has changed. You are no longer listening to a video. You are being trained. You are being forged by a mindset that does not tolerate mediocrity, that demands excellence as the standard, not the exception. And that demand starts internally. Every external transformation is a direct consequence of an invisible decision. It's not about how much you want change. It's about how much you're willing to let your old self die. Because here's the truth. There's no room for greatness and excuses in the same mind. One of the two will always be eliminated. See, when I repeated for years, time is my greatest asset. I manage every minute with the precision of an empire builder. I wasn't being metaphorical. Every minute of my time had a price. And it wasn't an emotional price, it was financial. I knew how much my time produced in annual return, how much an unnecessary meeting cost me, how much it cost me to listen to an ill-prepared advisor. And that's how you need to start thinking. Time is an investment. And it's the only currency that, once spent, will never be returned. Most people treat time as if it were infinite. They put off projects, conversations, ideas, decisions, because they think later will be more convenient. But tell me, when did an extraordinary life ever come from convenience? Never. Convenience builds routines. Decisions build legacies. And if you want to become a name that transcends generations, you need to stop living, reacting to days, and start shaping them like a craftsman shapes steel, with focus, fire, and steadfastness. And that's why simplicity is so powerful. Look at my life. Even with billions of dollars under my management, I never gave in to ostentation. Because I understood that luxury isn't what you flaunt, but what you master. My luxury was clarity, tranquility, the ability to say no to the superfluous, to live with less in order to invest in more, to keep the structure lean, the team sharp, the strategy simple. Because, in business, the more complex your system, the more fragile it will be. Do you want to grow? Learn to eliminate. Cut out the noise. Reduce vanity. Get rid of the unnecessary. An empire is not built on embellishments, it is built on invisible structures that withstand decades. And that goes for your company, your habits, your circle of people. Cut, select, simplify. Clarity is the greatest form of power. And speaking of power, you need to understand the true meaning of the last statement. I do not fear the concentration of wealth, for it is in good hands when managed with purpose and vision. To many, this sounds arrogant, but it is simply responsibility. The concentration of resources is not the problem. The problem is ignorance in management. I have never apologized for accumulating wealth, because every penny I directed was a seed sown for the future. Because I knew I managed better than the government, better than chance, better than unprepared heirs. So why feel ashamed? Why not take on this power with firmness, wisdom, and mission? You are afraid to prosper because you still carry a guilty conscience, as if financial success were a moral deviation, as if having a lot were betraying those who have little. But understand, your poverty does not help anyone. Your limitations do not liberate anyone. The only way to truly impact lives is to build abundance, direct it with purpose. Think about how many libraries I have built. How many young people have had access to books for the first time. How many leaders were born in rooms financed by my philanthropy. This did not happen by chance. It happened because I stopped justifying and started multiplying. Because I stopped seeking approval and started seeking effectiveness. You need to take charge. You need to stop backing away from your own potential. You need to declare, every dollar I earn is a seed, and every seed I plant bears fruit that feeds generations. That is building wealth with awareness. That is leading with soul and calculation. That if you're listening to all this today with a lump in your throat, it's a sign that something inside you has already begun to die. The old version, the old speech, the old limitation, let it die. Give your excuses a dignified funeral. Thank the version that brought you this far, but let it know, from now on, I am in charge. And the future obeys my discipline, and that discipline will not be negotiated. You will continue to wake up before the world. You will continue to read when others are sleeping. You will continue to build when no one else believes. Because you understand, the statements I make, I execute. And what I execute becomes inevitable. You are no longer a promise. You are the daily execution of what you believe. Now you begin to understand. Power is not just in what you know. It is in what you decide to apply every day, even when no one is looking. That is the difference between ordinary men and architects of empires. And make no mistake, you do not build an empire with steel, stone, or capital alone. You build it with quiet integrity, with consistent decisions, with non-negotiable habits. You see, I never had to say I was powerful. The decisions I made spoke for me. What I built, the men I shaped, the contracts I honored, all of them became silent witnesses to the kind of man I decided to be. And that's why I tell you now, be the kind of person who, even when silent, conveys strength. Guard your reputation as you would a diamond, because a solid reputation can be worth more than any fortune. You accumulate, and that starts with how you manage the invisible. Yes, the invisible. Your intentions, your thoughts, your judgments, your word. Weak men sell their word for convenience. Strong men uphold their word as one would uphold a bridge under tons of weight. Do you want to be respected? Then honor your commitments, even those you've made only to yourself. Most people go through life saying, I want to change my life, but that change never comes, because words are empty, weak, inconsistent. You need to declare, every sentence I utter becomes law in my world, and then live as a soldier of that law, without wavering, without negotiating with laziness, without justifying mistakes with sentimentality. When I say, I choose to walk alongside minds brighter than my own, I am talking about courage, because that requires humility. It requires accepting that you don't know everything, that you need to listen more, learn more, make mistakes faster, and correct them accurately. The ego wants applause. Leadership wants results. And results require alliances with people who challenge you, who expand you, who force you to grow. Are you afraid of looking small next to big names? I longed for that, because I knew that was exactly where my empire would grow. Each of my businesses grew stronger when I stopped trying to control everything and started recruiting minds that thought clearly, acted quickly, and delivered with excellence. Your mission is not to shine alone. It is to create a system where the light of many forms a flash that illuminates the future. This requires strategic delegation, supervision with vision, training with high standards. Because it's not enough to hire talent, you need to shape culture. You need to plant values. You need to be the invisible compass that guides the growth of each member of your team. And that compass is not made of speeches. It is made of example. If you demand punctuality, arrive early. If you demand discipline, be the embodiment of focus. If you preach reading, show the books you've devoured. The men who followed me did not do so out of obligation. They followed because they knew I lived everything I said. And that consistency builds an authority that cannot be ignored. Are you willing to lead like this? Because that is the only way to keep an empire alive, by building a culture where everyone knows what is expected, where everyone breathes the same code, where excellence is not negotiable, but the minimum standard. And that kind of culture is only possible when you, the leader, live your statements with such conviction that they become the atmosphere. Atmosphere. Yes, you walk into an environment led by someone aligned with your principles and you feel it. You feel the clarity. You feel the firmness. You feel the focus. I want you to be that kind of leader. I want your home, your company, your team, your life to exude purpose. And that starts with your vigilance over yourself. Because what you tolerate in yourself multiplies in others. Do you want to tolerate distraction? You will reap chaos. Do you want to tolerate excuses? You will reap mediocrity. Do you want to tolerate emotional laziness? You will reap silent betrayals. But if you live your affirmations with brutal integrity, you will see something miraculous happen. The world will begin to treat you with the seriousness you give yourself. Yes, because the universe is a reflection of your internal pattern. Affirming is not magic, it is an alliance. It is a pact. It is a declaration of war against everything that tries to keep you small. And so, repeat after me, even if silently. My mission is to lift others up as I climb. True success is collective. You cannot climb alone. And even if you could, it would not be worth it. The glory of a visionary mind is to see its fruits spread across the lives it has transformed. Do you remember your local library? You may not know it, but it may have been funded with the money I left behind. Because even in death, I continue to serve. Because my wealth was never static, it was a current that continues to flow to this day. That is the power of living with vision. You don't die, you multiply. Your voice echoes in the books you financed, in the ideas you inspired, in the companies you created, in the families you freed. Now I ask you, what will be the legacy of your affirmation? Have you been repeating weak phrases or imperial commands? Have you been living on desires or decisions? Have you just been dreaming of freedom, or have you been building a structure to sustain it? Be honest, what do you affirm with your routine, with your habits, with your circle of relationships, with your investments? Because more than the words that come out of your mouth, it is your lifestyle that reveals the kind of empire you are building. You can say 1,000 times, I am disciplined. But if you don't master your mornings, if you don't organize your days, if you don't execute with consistency, your statements are just window dressing. Pretty phrases to decorate a life without direction. But that can change now. Because now you know. Now you understand. Now you have a new vocabulary, a new system, a new code. And if you've made it this far, then I know there's something in you that refuses to accept a small life. Something that screams, even if silently, that you were born for more. That you weren't created to survive, but to transform. That there is an empire sleeping in your mind, in your history, in your hands. And that now, it's time to wake it up, because the truth is this. The world doesn't need more people with good intentions. It needs builders, strategists, leaders willing to boldly declare, I take charge of my reality. I am no longer a spectator. I become the architect of the future. And there is nothing more powerful than a human being who lives in alignment with their mission, sustained by their own principles, and driven by statements that are not just words, they are sacred commitments. So now, recap with me, but not as someone who is reminiscing. Reaffirm as someone who is making a commitment. You declare, my wealth is a sacred responsibility. And because of that, you don't waste it. You don't flaunt it. You don't sabotage yourself. Every penny that comes into your hands is directed with intention. Because you know, money is the horse, but you are the rider. You declare, I focus my energy with absolute precision. And so you don't get lost in distractions. You don't drown in meaningless tasks. Your focus is lethal. Your action is surgical. Your direction is non-negotiable. You declare, every dollar I receive is a seed, and so you plant wisely. You cultivate patiently, you harvest with honor, and you distribute with purpose. You declare, I choose to walk alongside minds brighter than my own. And so you don't compete with allies, you multiply with them. You build bridges, not walls, and you lead with the brilliance of the collective. You declare, I master myself before I lead anyone else. And so, your empire begins within you. Your self-control is the foundation of all the authority you wield. And no one can steal that. Declare, my simple life is my luxury. And so, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Your peace is worth more than any applause. And your structure is worth more than any appearance. You declare, Time is my greatest asset. And because of that, every day is an investment. Every hour is an asset. Every morning is a foundation. You don't waste minutes, you build futures. With them, you declare, philanthropy is my legacy. And because of that, you don't live just for yourself. You lift others up as you grow. Because you know that true greatness is shared. You declare, I educate my mind every day. And that's why you are constantly evolving. Your mindset is sharp. Your vision is expansive. You don't repeat yesterday, you surpass it. You declare, I avoid speculative shortcuts. And that's why you build on rock, not sand. You think in decades, not likes. You invest in structure, not illusion. You declare, my mission is to lift others up as I climb. And because of that, you create leaders. You transform lives. You open doors, and you become unforgettable. And finally, you declare, I do not fear the concentration of wealth, for it is in good hands, because your prosperity has direction. It has ethics. It has a cause. It has a destination. These 12 statements, when lived with conviction, don't just change your life, they change your identity. They alter your frequency. They redefine the type of energy you emit, and therefore the type of reality you attract. Build and perpetuate, and now, after everything you've heard, after everything that has awakened within you, answer me with the sincerity of a leader. What are you going to do with this? Are you going to close this video and go on with your life as if nothing happened? Or will you turn every word into action? Will you use this code as a compass for the next 10 years of your life? Will you live like a builder, like a strategist, like an example? You now have a mental map, a code of conduct, a system that can take you from confusion to clarity, from survival to prosperity, from anonymity to legacy. But only if you decide to act. Remember, the secret to success isn't in big revolutions. It's in small, daily commitments executed with greatness. It's in living each statement as a cornerstone. It's in repeating, acting, reviewing, improving, and building. One day at a time, one habit at a time, one decision at a time. And if you apply this, if you truly live this, you will not only transform your reality, you will transform your family, your city, your time. And maybe, just like me, you will be remembered long after you are gone. Not for being rich, but for being useful, for leaving seeds that continued to grow, even in your absence. That is true eternity. That is the true empire. And if all of this has touched you, if it has awakened something deep inside you, then now it's your turn to spread this vision. Share this video with those who need to hear it, with those who need to remember their power, with those who are ready to abandon survival and take charge. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now, because here you don't get videos. You get direction, strategy, truth, applied power. You get the key to the empire. Now go and build like someone who has been called to change the world, because you have, and the time is now.